Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Sports Talk with Austin, your daily dose of sports and entertainment. And can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? We are already at week 9 of the college football season. Can you believe it? I just felt like yesterday it was only week 2, but here we are, week 9 of the college football season, and today on the show, I will be breaking down and previewing all the big games of week 9 of college football, and I will be talking about many things that happened in week 8 and how it will translate into this week. So let's get started, shall we? And let's start with a Thursday night ACC matchup. Syracuse at Virginia Tech. This is very interesting because you got two teams in Syracuse and Virginia Tech. Everyone left Virginia Tech for dead, but here they are, only with one loss in the ACC, and and they're just hanging around, you know, giving people reason to believe. Brett, and then you got Syracuse with Dino Babers, who had the hot start with Garrett Schrader and company, but it seems that that's cooled off just a little bit here as of late. These two teams are hard to figure out, but Virginia Tech's got the hot hand. They're rolling. They've got the run game going, the pass game, coming off of a big win over Wake a couple weeks ago. And here they are. Syracuse, once again, seems like they're collapsing. They got drilled by Carolina. I mean, these two teams are hard to figure out. For me, and I think for a lot of people have said, these are the two most confusing teams. But I think I'm going to take Virginia Tech in this game 31-27. I think they're riding the hot hand right now. And Syracuse and Garrett Schrader do have the ability to run the ball, especially the fact that they have such a great running scheme. But I just feel like Virginia Tech's got the hot hand. They're getting the momentum, and they're still playing for the ACC championship contention hopefuls. At Syracuse, that's kind of out the window. But I'm taking Virginia Tech, though, riding the hot hand, especially at home. And then on to Saturday's slate, you got number 3 Ohio State at Wisconsin. This is NBC Saturday night, may I mind you. So the lights are going to be on bright at Camp Randall. Wisconsin surviving a thriller against Illinois 25-21, as Ohio State had the biggest game, arguably, of their season and the Big Ten this past Saturday with a 20-12 game against Penn State and coming out with a win at home. Marvin Harrison Jr., he was a big factor in that game. And now the question is there any letdown for Ohio State? Well, if there was any chance for a letdown, it could be right here, especially Wisconsin, after what Iowa did this past weekend with a chance to possibly stay in contention to win the West. But Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyle McCord, this team just seems to get better and better as the weeks go on. And Ohio State, I think, keeping their playoff contention hopes alive with two big wins, especially one on the road in South Bend. I just think it's hard to bet against Ryan Day and this Buckeyes team, especially Kyle McCord, who's proven to be a big gamer. And I think Wisconsin, this is the night. Camp Randall, jump up and down, all that good stuff. But Tanner McKee, Wisconsin, I know Tanner McKee, I believe, is I just don't believe in Wisconsin yet under Luke Fickle. I think Marvin Harrison has another big day. I think Kyle McCord's proven he's a gamer. He plays in these big moments. I think Wisconsin will keep it close for a half, but I think Ohio State, just like they did against Penn State, pulls away at the end, and I think they win a hard-fought 27-18 win. 27-18 Ohio State wins at the end. I think they pull away at the end because they got too much horsepower for the Badgers. Now on to number 6 Oklahoma at Kansas. This is big noon kickoff, and boy oh boy, what a big noon kickoff game this is. You got two high-powered offenses. Kansas, especially with Jason Bean. You know He's been playing really well as of late, and Kansas coming in with already 2 losses, maybe trying to stun the Sooners, and the Sooners have had trouble with the Kansas States for whatever reason. But they're on the road. Dylan Gabriel, the offense seems to be getting things going again. The defense, almost, saved their butts this past Saturday. Brent Venables, his specialty. Oklahoma's very interesting because they're coming off, that 31-29 win over UCF at home, off the bye week over the big win in Texas. They control their own destiny. But Oklahoma, for whatever reason, this happens to them every time. When you seem like the chips are all on the table and everything seems to be working their way, then they manage to blow it. As Kansas, they're coming into this thinking, hey, we've already got 2 losses in the Big 12. Let's go spoil Oklahoma's season. And I think if Jalen Daniels was healthy and playing, I would be tempted to pick Kansas here. But since it's Jason Bean, I don't think their offense is as versatile as it should be. I think the Sooners get over the Kansas curse, and I think the defense of the Sooners, get a couple turnovers, set up their high-powered offense in position. I got the Sooners winning 35-23 over the Jayhawks. Now on to another big Pac-12 game. Another big game this weekend, especially in the Pac-12. You got number 8 Oregon and number 13 Utah. And unfortunately, Cam Rising in the last edition of this game for a bit has been ruled inactive for the rest of the season. Very unfortunate. Wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully he gets healthy and can play one more season in college. But you got Utah and Oregon, both with 1 loss overall, 1 loss in conference. So this is almost like an elimination game for both these teams. And Utah with the loss to Oregon State in Corvallis, 21-7. You've got Oregon with the 36-33 loss on the road last week, 2 weeks ago now, to Washington. I just think this is going to be another heavyweight fight. Utah went on the road to USC, Southern Cal, against Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman, Lincoln Riley, and everybody's saying, oh, without Cam Rising, you have no chance. You're not a good road team. But they pulled it out, got Bryson Barnes, got him in position, kicked the game-winning field goal, and off the Utes go. Now, this game, they're at home. It's at 3:30. Rice Eccles gets rocking. They get loud. I just think Oregon, Utah, they played last year. It was 20-17, and Autzen Rising was in that game. He threw a couple late picks that allowed Bo Nix and company to get a big-time win. And now I think it's payback time for Utah. I think they've been playing like their season depends on it for so long. I think that just helps them even more. Oregon has, for the most part, been playing the Stanfords, the Cows, all them. Their biggest game was Washington, and now they lost. Now that they got their head on fire. But as for Utah, they've had their head on fire, especially since they had that loss 21-7 so early. I think in this game, I think Utah, Rice Eccles, I think they continue to play with their head on fire. And I think Utah and Bryson Barnes keeps it going again. I think Utah wins a sluggish, rugged game. I think they get a turnover or 2 on Oregon. I think the Ducks have a bad game coming their way. I think Utah gets a 21-16 win over the Ducks. Now, speaking of crucial matchups and playing with your head on fire, we got number 17 North Carolina at Georgia Tech. And boy, oh boy, North Carolina, you frustrate me. Everyone was calling you the second best team in the ACC, maybe even better than Florida State after the way they've looked. And then here you are blowing it against a 1-5 Virginia team at home at Chapel Hill. And now you got a chance against Georgia Tech, who's coming off a 38-23 loss against BC at home. It just makes me question North Carolina. Are you going to blow it for a second week in a row? You had all the hype. You've been obliterating teams. You got the big win over Miami, and many people were talking really good about you, saying, "Oh, North Carolina is a dark horse sleeper for the postseason, for the playoffs, NY6." And here we are. You let them down again, just like you did against Georgia Tech last year. Is this going to happen for 2 years in a row? Can you all get back on track? I, Haynes King and Georgia Tech, they're a team that's very confusing because they play teams so very differently. It's very interesting to me. I just think if Georgia Tech was a little more consistent, you, you can almost pick them because North Carolina's coming off of that bad loss and maybe there's a little hangover from it. But Georgia Tech is just they're too confusing of a team for me to figure out. Because 1 minute Georgia Tech's playing down to the wire with some of the best teams. They almost beat my Cardinals on opening night. If it had not been for our defense creating the fumble, and then Jawar Jordan, the big run to seal it. And then the next week they're blowing it against Bowling Green, giving up 38 points. Georgia Tech, this has been the story of their season. Haynes King has all the talent in the world. He's shown that, but he's also been turnover prone. I think Carolina's mad. I think they're going to take it out on Georgia Tech, especially on the road. I think Drake May has a Heisman moment. I think Carolina gets back on track 33-20. I think the Tar Heels get it done. And another big ACC showdown this weekend, Clemson and NC State. This is in years past, this would have been a premier game, but Clemson, Clay Klubnik and company coming off a 28-20 double overtime loss on the road in Miami. They're 4-3, and with 3 losses in the ACC, Clemson's virtually eliminated from any shot at the ACC title game unless there's miracles on the way. But this is not your average Clemson team. They've not looked that good this year. The offense just seems to be sputtering. And it's because, like everyone says, Dabo's not going in the transfer portal enough, picking up players, filling in positions that need filling, and it's really hurting their team this year with losses to Duke, Florida State, Miami, and they're facing NC State, who they thought Brendan Armstrong was their man. A lot of people had high hopes for him. They thought maybe they would be the position that Louisville or the Carolinas are in, but it turns out Brendan Armstrong was not the guy. Then they thought MJ Morris might be a spark, and turns out so far he's not been the spark. NC State, they have a really good defense. Peyton Wilson, he's a stud at linebacker. He's a do-it-all type guy. I think both these teams, especially NC State, they've still got a chance. They've still got a tiny chance, but it's not much. And I think this is at NC State. This isn't Clemson coming home. This is Clemson on the road for a second straight week. I just think if MJ Morris can get protection and get to get it to his playmakers like Casey Concepcion, who's a very talented stud wide receiver, freshman wide receiver, can make a lot of plays. If NC State, MJ Morris can limit the turnovers and just play NC State football and trust their defense, they got a very good chance to beat Clemson. But Clemson, on the other hand, that they've shown at times that they can be explosive too. It's just comes and goes. Clemson's defense is going to have to show up and win them this game, I believe. But I do think Clemson, they don't lose back-to-backs very often, and I don't think they're going to start now. But this is not going to be a pretty game to watch. I think they go on the road and they get a W. I got Clemson winning 25-23. I think Clemson wins a very ugly, ugly game. Now on to arguably one of the biggest rivalries in the SEC, next to Bama, Auburn, obviously. Number 1 Georgia versus Florida in Jacksonville, the world's largest cocktail party. This is a very interesting game, if you ask me, because Georgia, they're number one. They're still holding the spot, and they will be without Brock Bowers in this game, which is a huge, huge, huge loss. And they're going up against, a Florida offense. They're going up against the Florida team who's been very inconsistent, especially on the road. But as you can tell, this is considered a neutral site game in Jacksonville. So Florida is still in their element. They're still considered, I guess you would consider them the home team since it's in Florida. But I, I just think Florida, Graham Mertz, I think has exceeded expectations so far. I think if you were to tell Gators fans, like, hey, you're going to be 5-2 going in against Georgia, they would be thrilled beyond belief. Like, hey, we're still in this. We could go 8-4, possibly even 9-3. But then you look on the other side and say, can we upset Georgia when they're at their weakest? Because Georgia at times, have looked like the Georgia of old, where the defense is playing on all cylinders, the offense is balling, and then at other times they're struggling against South Carolina, and the defense has shown weaknesses and cracks against Auburn. They're turning the ball over. Georgia has been a very Jekyll and Hyde team, but in the last couple of weeks, they seem like they've gotten things back together, back on track. And Georgia, they always seem to play Florida really well. I think Florida, Georgia, both with bye weeks this past weekend, 2 weeks prior, I think they both come in well game plan. But in order for Florida to win this game, they got to get Trevor Etienne involved more, get the run game, set up the play action, give Graham Mertz a chance to maybe look deep, to test this Georgia secondary to see how good it really is. That's the keys that Florida wants to win. But if we get the Graham Mertz that's turned the ball over and the Florida that is just not playing very well, Georgia may eat them alive. But I think Georgia, without Brock Bowers on the offensive side, is really going to help the Gators' defense game plan better. But I think Georgia, with their running attack and Beck, with the great offensive line play that they've gotten as of late, I think Georgia still being the number one team. I think they come out of this with a win, but it's another ugly win. I got Georgia 20. I got Georgia 32-25. I got 32-25 dogs win. Now on to this game. This could be interesting. Pittsburgh at number 14, Notre Dame. Uh, this is interesting for a couple reasons because you got Notre Dame, who's coming off of a bye week, playing a Pittsburgh team who is very Jekyll and Hyde, especially when you go to Pitt. Their new quarterback, Christian Vilsuela, I think that's how you say it, replaced Phil Jakovic, who was struggling and, Pittsburgh lost Cincinnati, West Virginia, just wasn't looking as good. And then Christian, sorry if I butcher it, Villanuevas comes in, plays really well, beats a top 15 team in my Louisville Cardinals at home, and now they got a big chance against their arch rival Notre Dame. And Pittsburgh coming off of a 21-17 loss to Wake. Notre Dame coming off that big win over USC, had 2 weeks to prepare. The one thing that you have to learn about Pitt is you never take them lightly, because the second you do that, Pat Narduzzi sneaks up on you. And I believe that's what happened to us a couple weeks ago. We took Pitt lightly. We were riding off of a high over a win over Notre Dame, and it bit us in the butt. I hope Notre Dame doesn't let that happen to them on Saturday, especially even though it is at home. They're going to have the Irish fans rocking now that they've been rejuvenated, now that the back half of their schedule and their chances to win out are looking really good now, especially after Clemson went down, because that's really their only remaining roadblock. But Pittsburgh has proven even when they're down, you still don't count them out. And I think Notre Dame, I think they're not going to count them out. I think Notre Dame realizes, hey, Pittsburgh is not to be taken lightly. This team can still play football, and this is a team that still can play with the best of them. And I think since this is a rivalry game, I think Pat Narduzzi is going to have his team ready to play. I think Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, they're rejuvenated now. I think both these teams are going to come ready. But I think Notre Dame, too much offense, defense for the Irish get it done in a 28-20 victory for the Irish. Now on to SEC Saturday night. You got number 21 Tennessee at Kentucky. And this is very interesting if you ask me because Tennessee and Joe Milton are going on the road to Lexington and Kroger Field. Kentucky had 2 weeks to prepare for this game as Tennessee coming off a 34-20 loss against Alabama after giving up a 14-point lead. The fumble, the strip sack by the Bama defense really set things up. And then it went all downhill from Tennessee. Now we're going to find out, can they bounce back this weekend against the Wildcats, keep it going? This is very confusing because Tennessee on the road does not play very well, as it showed against Florida big time. Kentucky at home, obviously their home crowd is not like over the top, like one of the best, but it is a very loud stadium, and Kentucky seems to feed off the energy at Kroger Field. The question is, can Devin Leary, can he keep the ball out of harm's way? Can Ray Davis get the running game going? Ray Davis in the offense? Can Tennessee, can they get something going? Can they sustain something, especially on the road, and not lose complete hope of possibly making a New Year's Six? But I think in this game, it's going to come down to which quarterback makes less mistakes, which coach trusts their team more. And I think Tennessee, off that loss to Alabama, I think they will bounce back, but it'll be an ugly bounce back win this weekend. I got Tennessee winning 38-24. I think they win by double digits, but they pull away late, and it's an ugly double-digit win. Now on to ABC Saturday night, a little Pac-12 action. You got Colorado at number 23, UCLA. And the big question in this game is, UCLA, who pounded Stanford this past weekend, absolutely put them into the ground in the Rose Bowl. And you got Colorado, who blew the 29-0 lead to Stanford. They had a bye week, had a chance to think about it, sit on it, rest up. Now the question is, how is Colorado going to respond? They got a top 25 opponent in the Rose Bowl. And I just think this is going to define Colorado's season right here. UCLA, for a lot of people, are that above average top 25 team. They pull off an upset here and there. They're not the team that is going to go out and just beat you. They're going to be a team that keep you in it, and they're going to keep it close. Dante Moore has shown strides, but especially when you get him in a hostile environment, that's when concerns happen. But for me, Colorado season more likely is on the line because they're 4-3, right? And with this game right here, you go 4-4, you have to split your next 4 meetings. And you still got Oregon State, you got Arizona State, you got Utah. So you're telling me they got to go 2-2. This right here, this may be Colorado's season right here. Because if Coach Prime and company win this game, you're 5-3, and you just got to win one more game out of your last 4. You lose this, you have to go 2-2, 500. This is the most high pressure game I think of Coach Prime's career is right here. Other than the TCU game, the beginning of the year, this is the most pressure he's going to feel because Colorado's season depends on it. UCLA, they're sitting back saying, we're looking good, and maybe if all chaos happens, we can be in the Pac-12 title game. As for Colorado, they got to play with desperation. Shedeur Sanders, the offense, Travis Hunter, he's back healthy. I think this game here, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to. I think Colorado, this is where we find out what kind of team they are. Are they a team that's just going to lie down and say, 4 wins is good, we'll take it, we'll be happy. But knowing Deion Sanders and the way he is, and that they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, I think Colorado comes out with a sense of desperation. Their defense plays harder. They're going to hit harder. Shedeur Sanders is going to make a case for a Heisman. Yeah, UCLA, they're going to be able to run the ball and do everything they can, especially against that Colorado defense that's not very good. But I think Colorado's offense shows up this game. They hold on to it. I think Colorado keeps their bowl hopes alive. I got Colorado winning 37-30. I got Colorado winning 37-30. I think they get it done. I think they get to 5-3 and ensure that they only need one win. Now on to another Pac-12 game. Number 11 Oregon State at Arizona. And this is interesting for multiple reasons. Because Arizona, very Jekyll and Hyde team in the Pac-12. Took USC to the limits in double overtime. It took Caleb Williams on a 2-point conversion to win it. Then they go out and dominate 44-6 over Washington State, who was ranked at the time, and Cam Ward, who was on the Heisman campaign at the time. Noah Fifita, ever since they took Khalil Tate out, Noah Fifita has been looking really good, playing really good ball. But Arizona, they got a chance. They're taking on a top 15 Oregon State team who's almost top 10. They're looking really, really good. I think Arizona with Noah Fifita, they're going to have to weather the storm. They're at home. This is the desert. Things in the desert get crazy. I think Oregon State knows that. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. A lot of teams are coming off buys this week. They've had time to prepare. Oregon State, DJ Uiagalelei, already with a big win over Utah. Don't want to blow it in the desert. Jonathan Smith, could he be coaching his way possibly to the Pac-12 championship game? This is all very interesting stuff. But Noah Fifita, Arizona at home are a completely different team from the road Arizona team. And I think in this game here, I think it shows. I think Arizona takes Oregon State to the limit. But I think Oregon State with DJ, who's the more experienced quarterback, the better defense, I think they find a way to get it done at the end. And Oregon State pulls out a hard-fought 33-30 win. Now on to our final game of the weekend. You got UNLV at Fresno State. A very interesting non-Power 5 game. You got UNLV at 6-1. You got Fresno State at 6-1 as well. Both teams coming off bye weeks. Fresno State, lost Jake Haener, and a lot of people were like, they're going to take a step back. Don't expect much from them. Then they get a big win on the road, and Ross Dwelley at Purdue opening day, and they just keep things going. Then UNLV, besides from that whooping they took against Michigan, they look like one of the best non-Power 5 teams, just as Fresno had. Fresno, their only loss was to Wyoming. This is a very interesting game. I think this is at home for Fresno. I think, with both teams having 2 weeks to prepare, no one's got a leg up. They're both rested, both getting healthy at the right time. But I think Fresno feeds off the home crowd. I think Fresno gets a bounce back win. I think Fresno wins a 26-17 game over UNLV, and I think they can get it done. But that was week 9 of college football. Hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Turn on notification bells so you never miss another great video of Sports Talk here with Austin. Let me know what games you're looking forward to, what games you think I might get right, might get wrong. Let me know. Let it all go. But until then, this has been Sports Talk with Austin, and I'm out this thing, man. Peace. And go Cards, everybody. Beat Duke.